1, 2, 1, 2. Wow. That's a strong mic. Happy Sabbath, Bristol. Yes, I didn't have to ask you twice. You guys are awake. This is good. You're certainly in the midst of this church of B2. Make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among you. That song touched me, obviously, hard. My praise team leader in my home church in Parkside made that song. He wrote that song and we sang it at Cadmus a couple of years ago. So that song makes me feel at home, even though I'm around 90 miles away from home. But I'm glad to be here. Last time I came to Bristol, it was traumatic because it's the first time I got my points when I was driving. Okay, I was speeding here in this church, I was speeding here, and when I got home, a few days later, I saw Brian and Glenn that told me you have to go on a course. Did anyone testify to be there? Yes, I'm seeing that. He put me to the course. That course told me to never ever get a point again. My driving license has been clean ever since then. That was a choice I made, but today I make better choices. Amen. So as I mentioned before, I work as an account executive for an IT firm. But part-time, in the evening when I finish work, I'm a personal therapist. So I've trained loads of clients. I've done this for around 7, 8 years. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people. Now, this sort of time of the year is when I usually am most busiest. I get a lot of messages because people are saying, what? You need to get into the right shape for summer. Now it's too late, church. The sun, when you see the sun is up and the sunset is past 7 o'clock, it's too late for that question. But many people come to me as a personal trainer because they decided to get into a shape that is, as one of our clients says, is not offensive to the eye. And so it's simply, when we think about trying to get your body into shape, a lot of people made decisions last summer to try and make some better decisions so that this summer they're ready. That's when we have hashtag summer body, hashtag summer goals. People have a desire to look a certain way. And as simple as it sounds, the reality is you have to make many difficult decisions throughout the year to get to that point. Yes, my brother understands. Some of you find yourself asking yourself consistently, chocolate or fruit? Fish and chips versus rice and peas? Water or Fanta? Fruit smoothie or Oreo milkshake? Will I do my gym session today, or am I going to have a late night and chill, watching Netflix? Do I want a late night kebab, or do I want a light, healthy, nutritious snack? Do I want to sleep early and sleep for 8 hours, or am I going to keep, pressing that next button on Netflix and then I'll sleep 3 or 4 hours? I see everybody smiling. We have a witness in here. These are the difficult decisions that we have to make in order to get to the point where when summer hits this year, you're in that neck-breaking, head-turning shape that you want to be. Now, you see, a lot of people make terrible decisions all year long, and that's why people like me exist. Amen? A personal trainer. We exist for your terrible decisions that you make. Because the reality is, many people will not do what they need to do, so they'll come to me to work a miracle in 10 weeks. People will come to me and they say, Gus, right now I'm size 16, but I don't have time, I only have 2 months, you must make me a size 8. Gus, right now, I've never lifted any weights, my arms need to be bigger, my chest needs to be bigger because I have to get married in the summer, I have to fit into my suit and look like I'm a real man, and you only have 6 weeks to make it happen. Needless to say, church, this can't happen too easily. I can get you somewhere, but I'm not a miracle worker. If you want to start working out when the robber is in your house so you can fight the robber, it's too late. You better call the police. Because you had choices to make a long time ago to prepare for this moment that you knew was coming. And so many of us made some simple decisions which we thought it's only going to happen today. But we have found ourselves 100 miles down the road, we only intended to explore for 10 minutes. The choices that we make, the question I have for you, Bristol, is what road are you on? Where are your decisions taking you? Right now, as we sit here, a lot of us are a summary in some way of the decisions we have made over the last year, the last 3 years, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, our whole life as we sit here. We are a summary of decisions that we have made. I want you to ask yourself, how well are you doing? 30 years, mercy of decisions. That's a long time. You need to know who you are, church. You need to have a goal. And when you have this goal and you know who you are, then you're truly able to ask yourself, how well am I doing? Many of us are struggling to answer the question of how well am I doing because we don't know who we are. Because we don't know who we are, we don't have clear goals. So anything that we do here is just simply surviving through life. Albert Einstein said that thinking is hard work. And that's why so few people do it. Thinking about one's choice in particular is scary because one might find a pleasant truth which requires painful adjustments. Our key text, Exodus chapter 2, verses 11 to 15, says, one day after Moses had grown up, he went out where his people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and that way, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, why are you hitting the fellow Hebrew? The man said, who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian? Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. And when Pharaoh heard this, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by the well. And please close your eyes and consider the sermon title, Choices, Choices, Choices. Dear Lord Jesus, you brought me around 19 miles down the motorway to come and see my fellow believers in Bristol. I pray that you would speak to me. I pray that you would speak through me. And that we will be able to get through this message in a swift manner that is still impactful to those who will hear this message in Jesus' name. Now, with this narrative, we're going to go through this message nice and quick, but I want you to get it. The Hebrews are slaves to the Egyptians, and life is not good. Slavery is never good. And so the Israelites are living in Egypt, and life is uncomfortable. And in the previous chapter, chapter 1, Pharaoh has simply said to all of his people, he said to the Israelites, all of the male children must be killed. And they will be killed by being thrown into the river Nile. And so Moses' mom, she's one of many, many Hebrew women, her having a male son, she has a choice to make. I can throw this baby into the river Nile like most of the other women, or I can put him into a basket and take a chance. She had a choice. And so Moses' mom, I would like to use my sanitizer, my own imagination, I believe her to be a visionary, a bold woman, a woman who knows what she wants, because if she did it, she would have simply gave it to Pharaoh and threw her own child into the river. But because she has a goal and a vision of where she wants the child to be, she took a chance, she took a risk, she put her son in the basket, and the basket headed towards Pharaoh's palace. Think about that for a second. This is the man who has said, all Israelite sons must die. So when this basket is heading down this river, this is not an easy thing. This is a big risk. Because the person who is responsible for this decree, the basket is heading towards his palace. This is how powerful God is. Can you hear that? Heading towards his palace, and it wasn't just a servant who found this basket, but it's the Pharaoh's daughter. Found this child, and it's very easy for her as an Egyptian, knowing her father's decree, to simply get the baby and dip it into the water. Right? Half the job is done, it's in the basket, just dip it in, it's gone. But look at the powerful God we serve. Something is happening, and an Egyptian woman takes this child and raises this child as her own. If you want to win, if you want to get somewhere in life, you must be ready to stand firm against the current trend in society and the fear in your heart. Many of us want to get somewhere, but are you willing to take a risk? So how did this choice impact Moses? We're flying with this message. I'm glad you asked that question. For starters, he lived. Well, at the very least, Moses lived, and others, many, many children died. That's what we have the story of Moses. Many children died. There was not just thousands of Israelites, but millions. The choices we made. Sometimes we're making choices and we think it's only impacting ourselves, but you don't know the impact you have on other people around. Fast forward now, Moses has grown up, he's in Egypt, he is royalty, but he has also been taught his true identity as a Hebrew by his mother. We're going to work through the key text and the message is going to be over. So as we now know that Moses had grown up, and in this scenario, he walks out of his palace and he finds two Egyptians find an Egyptian beating an Israelite. And the Bible text lets us know that he looked to the left and to the right. And when he saw that nobody was looking, what did he do? He killed the Egyptian. Consider the context here. Moses is a Hebrew. His people are slaves, but he has royalty status. A very unique situation. His life is looking bright because he's lived a life of luxury and he has the opportunity to save other people. His life is looking bright, but here we have that word again, choices. When he's met in this situation, the choice that he decides to do is kill the Egyptian. Now let's reason together. Was this the right thing to do? No. That's good. Even you know. We know that this is the wrong decision to do, and Moses knew that this is the wrong decision because he hid the body in the sand. How many of us have made mistakes and tried to hide it in the sand? We're not going to go there, we're going to keep on going. What are the repercussions for Moses' decision? The next day when he went out, he saw two Hebrews fighting now, and these Hebrews, as he tried to stop them from fighting, they said, are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian? So out of the fear of the mistake that he made, he knew that right now Pharaoh, who has been his friend, has become his biggest foe because he wants to kill him, and he's left with no choice but to flee. How many of us have ended up running away from certain spaces because of the decisions that we have made? You may be sat here, but some of us are sat here running away. Some of us are sat here, we should be doing something in church, but we stopped a long time ago because some choices were made. And so despite me being here, I'm still not where I should be because I should be here participating. Some of us are doing jobs that we should never have done, but because of the decisions that we have made, we have found ourselves there. And so Moses has run away, and the text says that he went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now, I want to tell you, Midian was not like Egypt. This was a desert now. Secluded place. It was not glamorous like Egypt. There was no money like Egypt. And because Moses has run away from Egypt, his title is gone. He's no longer a prince. Nobody cares about what you're wearing that day, Moses. You think I'm going to fetch you that water? You better sit by that well, Moses. Figure out how to get that water from that well. Moses has lived a different life, and his choice, one simple choice, has changed his life drastically, church. Where he used to be in such a high, elevated, bright situation, his life is now looking bleak because he sat down by, I don't even think he's ever sat down by a well before. In Egypt, he would have been given the water. He doesn't even know how he came into the palace. Or somebody had to go down many miles and get the water and clean it and go for a whole process. Now he has to be a person who fetches, cleans it, and drinks it. The choices we make, church, your choices have power. Too many times we have sanitized the character of Moses by saying, oh, you know what? God took Moses from Egypt so that he can unteach him the ways of the Egyptians, and then he can be ready to now receive the word of God. This is false, church. Do you know how I know that this is false? The Bible text says, Moses looks to the left. Moses looks to the right. Moses killed the man and then hid the body. That's why Moses is where he is today. God was not taking him to the wilderness to show him anything. Moses took himself into the wilderness because of his own choice. You have the choice to get your life to any place that you want to in this world. Sometimes we come to church and we say, church, the week has been hard, the devil's been on my back because things are going wrong. But if we were to analyze the choices we made, sometimes we have jumped to the devil's back and he's taking us to the right and we were chasing. And now that he's given us a piggyback, has dropped us off of the church, those who come with feeling fatigued, but truly, choices were made. Someone here today is far away from where they had plans to be. We had visions of being doctors, pilots, psychologists, singers, wealthy, influencers, leaders. But church potential is not enough. The potential you have and the opportunities you have, choices must be made to get you to that goal. You have the power to change the course of your life with that simple word. So now we have Moses down by the well. Follow me, church. We're going somewhere. Exodus chapter 2, verses 15 to 25. I'm not going to read it out for you, but we're going to summarize this because we know this story. The text lets us know that Moses' life had changed in the land where he settled. He was no longer living as before. His life now has boundaries and parameters. We all understand this. When we make mistakes, sometimes we have to live a reduced version of the life we aimed to live before. The question I have for you, church, is what is your wilderness? Where have you been hiding? Some of us have been living life feeling unworthy, feeling fearful, feeling resentful, disappointment, maybe with ourselves or other people. We feel like life and hope is lost, and we feel like there is no hope for redemption or a second chance. We are living a withdrawn life, we are living on plan B. Because we have made some bad choices. We're in chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. We're moving quickly through this message. Chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. In this point, we find the famous story of Moses now still in Midian, and he comes across a burning bush. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him. When I read this text, in this portion, I almost feel as if God is showing Moses this burning bush because it represents his life. A withered life. Lacking nutrition, lacking water, lacking hydration. And in this situation where God is working with him, I believe that God is trying to show Moses what he can do in his life. And so God, as we know this story, he lights up this bush. An impossible mission. A random fire starts in the desert, and the bush is on fire, but it's not burning. And something interesting happens here in this text. It says that God called Moses. I want to pause there and say that this is quite powerful. Many times when we're living in this withdrawn life, this quiet life, this lesser life, this plan B life, we don't actually believe that God can really move in those situations. Many of us believe that we have to sanitize ourselves and clean ourselves and come to church and do confession, come to the front, and then maybe God might hear you and then life can be better. That's not how this story goes. The story says that Moses is still in the desert, he's still by himself, away from his friend in his restricted life, and God speaks to him. God can speak to you in your difficult situation that you're in now. And as if that's not enough, we see in verse 5 that while Moses is coming to this bush, in this dusty place in the desert with his sandals all dirty, and he's coming up to this bush, a place which he had probably been many times. He heard the voice of God, and the voice of God says, take off your sandals for what? This is holy ground. For me, this is powerful, and I'm smiling because many of us are in this mess that we have created. People look at you, some people know your mess, and they think your mess is filthy. A lot of the times we think our mess is filthy. We compare to look at ourselves. We don't like the situation where we're in. We don't like the job we're doing, the situation we're in, the people that we are around. We do not like it because we feel as if we made mistakes and it plunges us into some mess. But I would like to let you know, church, that when God enters into your situation, it does not matter how that ground has been. God says, take off all of that because now since I'm here, this is holy ground. What good can come out of my hopeless, embarrassing situation? What good can come out of my bitter and angry situation? What good can come out of my poor choices? I would like to tell you, church, that God does not even speak to Moses about his choices, his murder. Does that mean that God doesn't care? Of course he cares. God cares, but that's not the big deal. The big deal is that God does not care about his choices because God has all power to forgive Moses. God has all power to reroute your course. God has all power to enter a mediocre place and turn your barren wilderness experience into home ground. When God enters your situation, church, Moses is here in Midian, living alone and secluded because of his choices. But church, we serve a God who also makes choices. You understand that? Sometimes we think our choice is so powerful that it can't be reversed. But we serve a God that also makes choices, and this God chooses to often work with us. He often chooses not to tolerate us, but he wants to interact with us, speak to us, rebuild us while he's rebuilding with us. We're moving quickly through this message in Exodus chapter 3, verses 7 to 22. I'm not going to read this part to you, but you know the story, right? Moses has to be convinced by God. So God tells him, "Don't be a rod." The rod turns into a snake, and he picks it up. God is working on his confidence. Sometimes God will work with you on a one-to-one. Don't worry about what other people are doing in the place that you've left. God can meet you where you are, build up your confidence and your faith with him as he prepares you to send you on a mission. And so that's the summary of Exodus chapter 3, verses 7 to 22. God is now working on Moses' mission. He's telling him, don't worry about what he will say, what he will think. The people who even remember you running away and why you went away, don't worry about them. I'm putting my stamp of approval on your mission. I'm putting my stamp of approval on your calling. And so we're moving on to Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 to 2. I want you have to see this point here. Exodus chapter 4, verses 1 to 2 reads like this. Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say the Lord did not appear to you? Mercy. And I want you to take this text in because this is the very real reality you will experience when you have made bad choices. People will begin to question whether God can even use you. And many times we believe those people. That's when we sit down with the church and we no longer want to serve or lead. But I want to tell you something, Bristol. If I had that attitude, I wouldn't be speaking to you today. Oftentimes we feel as if I can't participate in church because I've done mistakes. You think I'm sinless? I'm not. But you gladly listen to me. Why would you not like so why do you keep yourself in the view think you can't do it? But you happily listen to me, who says just like you? Makes no sense. Don't let the devil keep you in that space. And so in this situation, Moses speaks to God. And in verse 2 it says, then the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? Moses replied, a staff. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Why am I pausing here? Do you think God did not know what was in Moses' hand? God knew, right? But sometimes God has to ask us what is in your hand because we have been in this mess for so long, we don't even think we're capable of doing anything good. We don't think we have anything to give anymore. We're just existing in life, sitting in our pews, waiting for the service to finish and we go back to existing in life. But God is turning Moses' eyes to tell him there's still something that you have to give. And as long as you're able to look at what's in your hand and offer it to me, I can do something with it. You say amen. And so God asked him, what is in your hand? And Moses replied, a staff. Don't miss that point. A staff. So God goes through the series of miracles, and Moses sees the snake changing into a rod and the rod into a snake. And after his confidence has been built up, we go up into Exodus chapter 4, and this is our final chapter. Exodus chapter 4 from verse 10 to 13. Moses goes, to verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent neither in the past nor since you have spoken to me, your servant, I am slow of speech and tongue. And the Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it I not the Lord my God? I will help you speak. I will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. please send someone else. Oftentimes when God has taken us through saving us from our mess, we should have had some certain consequences that we have missed. Oftentimes we want to come back to church and we want to give a testimony. But after the testimony, we want to sit down. No more activity. I just want to say, church, this is what God did for me, but I'm not going to sit down until I make another mess and then God saves me. That's not how God created you to live. That's not how God desires us to work. He desires that when He saves you, He now wants to put you to work. Because every single one of you has potential regardless of your past. And so Moses has this attitude which many of us often have when we make some bad choices. Lord, there must be somebody out there better than me. Send them. Somebody can sing better than me, can speak better than me. Someone's more deserving of this job. Send them. Give them that job. I don't deserve. But Jesus turns around, God looks at Moses and He says, I do not pick people based on their ability for the role. I'm picking you because I see your potential and there's someone I want to take you. I can take anybody there, but I choose you for a specific reason. And so I would encourage you as I start to wrap up this message, if you feel that God is calling you to do something, whether in church or to go on a ascent in the world, don't look at your past and feel as if you're disqualified. If God calls you, puts it on your heart, you better start moving. Because many of us, and I'm not going to go into this part of the story, but we know how Moses' story goes. He's said to be the best leader in the history of this planet. But how does that happen if he does not make the choice to go against the facts in his mind? To go against the facts that society is telling you? Many of you are sitting here living your simple life, and sometimes we want to settle for the basic life, but we have no idea the amount of greatness that is charged inside you that God can take you down if only you chose to put your life in His hands. How can God use me? Church, David was a murderer and stole somebody's wife. But because of David, there's a Bible text that says many times in the Old Testament, about 5 or 6 times, the Israelites were about to be punished by God, but God said, because of my servant David, I will spare you. That's the person who is responsible for your salvation. David, the person who killed and stole somebody's life, because of my relationship with him, and because he chose to give his life to me, regardless of his mistakes, I will spare you today. Abraham lied, yet God made him the father of many nations. Paul was a persecutor of believers, yet he wrote half the New Testament. Peter denied Jesus multiple times and had an anger issue and life problem, yet Jesus chose him as a foundational piece for his mission. Jonah was stubborn, yet God was patient with him and moved mightily with him. These people are not different to you, church. The only difference between a lot of these characters in the Bible is that when they were down and they made bad choices, they used that same choice to choose God. What will you do with your choice today? You have power in your hand. I'm rounding up this message, and I want you to remember when I told you this staff? God asked Moses, what's in your hand? He said, this staff. Later on in chapter 5, when Moses has now gone through this little debate with God, and he's gone back and forth, the Bible text lets us know that Moses left moving with his wife, with his cattle, with his kids, and with the staff of God. Listen. When God asked him, what do you have in your hand? He said, any staff. Any staff. Any. Just a staff. But when he's going back to Egypt, the staff is called the staff of God. Whatever abilities you have, church, that's not a mistake in the Bible. God is trying to tell you that this simple minuscule gift that you think you don't have is just a voice, it's just a CV, it's just a grade. That is a fact, yes, that's what it is. But God says, when you give it to me, it becomes mine. And I will show you what I will do whatever you have to give me. Moses had a staff, and from him giving that one thing to God, he became a leader, and that staff stayed with him his whole life. Some of you, the things that you've already accomplished, and you know, the things you've accomplished, great expensive, but some of the things you've accomplished, This might be your life testimony. The very thing you're trying to hide in the sand. I don't want anyone to know this word. I don't want anyone to know this decision, this mistake that I have done. If you give it to God, that very thing you're trying to hide, the very thing you don't look on with any value, God will use that very thing and take you somewhere. This message is finished. Sometimes when we're speaking from the word, it's hard for you to take something and believe it because it's many years ago it's happened to someone. So let me tell you about myself. When I was young, I had a startup. Couldn't speak properly and I hated public speaking. I've been preaching now for around 14 years. That's something which I thought I should hide. I shouldn't speak, I don't belong there. Because I can't speak, this is for people who can speak. Right now I'm speaking to you. 12, 13 years later, I had to make a choice. Right now in my current role, I'm working for one of the most reputable organizations in the world for what they do, and my job is to speak to CIOs, CMOs, CEOs, these are chief executive officers for big companies across the world. That's my job every day. Now, these people know what they're doing. Trust me. You don't lead a company if you don't know what you're doing. So if it's my job to speak to them day in, day out, I have to be intellectual. I have to be able to. How do I experience that if I choose to keep that ability or that defects down the ground and say to God, I'm not going because I can't speak? How do I end up going to New World and study and do my master's there in a degree where you have to be intellectual and then come and speak in the church where SDAs of all Christians know the Bible? You don't get to go through that experience unless you tell God, regardless of how I feel about my defects and God, the choices you make, church. As we wrap up, I want you to think about where your life is right now. The same choices that you made that put you in that mess, you have the same choice available to correct your path. God is not asking you to fix your path, He's asking you to choose Him so that He can fix your path. It's a good deal, right? I make the mess, I choose you to fix it, it's a good deal. That's what Jesus is asking you today. So as you sit there and you think about your poor choices in parenting, as a son, as a daughter, as a student, as a male, as a female, think about those choices. Think about the mess you're in. Take responsibility because that's what you did. But as you take your responsibility and you think about what you need to do better, give your life and put that situation into God's hand and truly allow Him to take you on a vulnerable journey where you can end up somewhere where I can even describe to you. You don't know what that journey looks like, and if God told Moses how the journey would be, Moses would have run away in fear. That's why sometimes your life is in the dark and you're worried, where am I going, what will I do? I'm 25 now, I need to get my life in order. How will life look when I'm 35? You don't know, you can't know. Just control the controllables in the situation now. And one thing that's in your control is the choice to choose to put your defect and your mess into God's hand. Heads about as it close. Dear Jesus, I'd like to thank you for bringing me down here to Bristol, many miles to see some new faces and see some old faces. And I pray, Lord, that we keep this church as they continue to move this community around them. Please help them to think individually on the decisions that they're making every day, the choices that they have as individuals and as a collective, because they also have choices to make as a church. Please, may you help them reflect on all the meetings and the board meetings that we have. But the choices that they make may be heading towards a certain road, and they're very clear on which road that is. Lord, right now, everybody here, we have made choices, whether it's negative choices in some way, shape, or form. We're in some mess, but we have seen in your word that you have the ability to make a mess and turn it into holy ground. So please, Lord, for all of those who want to change the course of their life, to change the decisions that they have made in the past, and to live for a better future, and to go on that scary journey where you take them to places they never thought they would be. Please start to work in their lives. Please light up that burning bush. Please arrest their attention on their road as they live in their wilderness experience, in their media, that they may be able to simply enter into that space where that bush is burning, and however way you want to do it for them in the year 2022. Please let that bush burn and distract them from the journey which they'll be going on, and Let them be rooted back into the purpose which you created them for. This is my prayer, in Jesus' name I pray.